If you want to study abroad but confused between UK and Canada, this video is for you, as I'll be comparing both the countries on 15 parameters so that you can make your decision. And I'm not doing this alone, as I have a special guest from Canada to cover her bit. So without any further delay, let me introduce you guys to my regular guest Shafali and start our comparison game now. Hi Shafali, welcome back to Your Knowledge Buddy once again.
Thank you so much, Sarika. Thank you for having me back yet again.
If you don't mind, can you please remind my audience what are you doing and who are you?
So my name is Shafali Kapoor and I am a licensed Canadian immigration consultant. And I am basically authorized to practice Canadian immigration and give services to people who are interested in making Canada their home.
Thank you. Awesome. So because of that, I have brought you today on my channel because I want to discuss a very important topic, which is from students, because they are confused whether to go to UK or Canada. So
Canada wins.
So I have listed few parameters which we are going to discuss and then see your point of view for Canada versus point of view from UK side, which I'm going to add, and my audience, they can decide which country is better for them. So the first point that I have is about the tuition fees. Yeah, so I'm going to say for UK, the bachelor's is for 3 years and the master's is for 1 year, as compared to any other country like Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. So the average tuition fee that students pay here is from £10,000 to £15,000 per year, which is roughly say 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs in Indian rupees. What about Canada?
So in Canada, we have multiple options. People could go for a bachelor's degree, which could be a 4-year degree. They could do a master's degree, which could be 1 or 2 years. And we also have public colleges where people could do a 1 or 2 year diploma program or a graduate certificate program. Now, obviously, if you go to a public college, the fee is less. If you do a 1 year or 2 year diploma or a graduate certificate program, the fee could range anywhere between $15,000 to $18,000 per year, depending on the program and, of course, the province as well. And then if you're doing a bachelor's or a master's degree at a university, then you could expect the fee to be somewhere in the range of $30,000 per year. Could be more as well, depending on the program, but about $30,000 per year.
So moving to the next factor, which I have mentioned, is the living cost. I have spoken to lots of students in the UK, and the average living cost for students in the UK is anywhere from £700 to £1,300 per month, depending how they're living and whether they're in London or outskirts of London. What about Canada?
See, for a single person, the cost of living has really gone up in Canada as well. Now, if I have to just talk about a brand new student who lands in Canada, I think they can manage with about $1,200 to $1,500 with sharing accommodation, sharing grocery, and of course, not having a car either. So this is very, very basic living. But as the aspirations grow and as the lifestyle changes, once obviously they arrive in Canada, this cost only goes up. But you can say the first initial is about $1,200 to $1,500 bare minimum living cost.
So now let's talk about the post-study work permit. So in the UK, for anyone who's doing a bachelor's or master's, they can get a 2 years of post-study work permit. And for students who are doing PhD, they can get 3 years of post-study work permit. And Canada?
So again, in Canada, it depends on the length of the program. So if you've done a 1 year program, you get a 1 year permit. If you've done 1 year, 2 programs, so 1 year program and then another 1 year program back to back, then you can get a 3 year permit, which is a maximum length of the work permit you can get. And for a 2 year program or more, it's 3 years.
Okay, so moving to the next. This is very important question for the students because they're always worried about getting a permanent residency in the country they go. So for UK, getting a permanent residency is not that easy because I have seen people struggling here to get a PR. So if people's job fall in the UK shortage occupation list, it becomes easier for them to get. However, the good thing is that UK is following points-based system, which means if you get 70 points, you can still get sponsorship, even though your job doesn't fall in the UK shortage occupation list, provided you get a job offer from a licensed sponsor and COS, which is called Certificate of Sponsorship. And what about Canada?
It's very, very similar for Canada as well. Canada has been following a point-based system for a very long time. The only difference now is actually have been following the point system for as long as I remember. But in 2015, they moved to something which was a simpler process called as express entry. Over the years, express entry has become extremely competitive. Canada is also following an occupation-specific or a priority occupation list draws now, even under express entry. We also follow something called as provincial nomination. Again, provinces are also focusing on, high priority occupations. So if you're somebody or if the applicant is somebody who has experience in a priority occupation, PR is comparatively easier. But if they are competing against the rest of the pool and based on the point system is very, very, very competitive. And the difference with Canadian point system is that our points are out of 1,200 and the cutoffs right now are anywhere in the range of 496 to, even above.
Okay.
And to get 496 is a big deal.
How do you see students succeeding? Have you seen like good success rate for students who come to study?
It's becoming very hard, and that's why so I always say that immigration, just regardless of any country, like every country is very dynamic. Things change by the hour sometimes, and especially during COVID, we've changed so many changes and so many reforms. The government has had to change their policies based on the need of the government and the country. So I always tell my clients, be ready to shift gears at any time. We could have to change our strategy at any point in time. But right now, our strategy is that work and gain education in occupations that are in demand in Canada. Try to avoid working in generic occupations unless you know that after completing your experience, your scores are going to be very high. Also, another big point that a lot of people are not realizing is that the ratio between the number of temporary residents that are coming to Canada this time versus the number of people who can actually become PR in that 1 year is huge. There are about 1 million people who are coming on temporary residence per year, but only of that 1 million, 465,000. So 465,000 can actually get PR. So there is almost 50% that will remain without PR.
Now, moving to the next parameter, it's weather. So in the UK, at least I know as compared to Canada, it's not that cold. I can say that maximum it goes to -3, -4, or -5. Maybe in the north, it goes a little bit more, but generally it's not that cold as Canada.
So Canada is cold. Yes, I'm not going to deny that it's not cold. It's definitely cold. But again, I've noticed a difference. I've lived in this country for almost 15 years now, and I've noticed the difference, how global warming has affected the temperatures. And another big thing that I always tell everybody, all my clients, is that we get used to it, So weather can never be a negative factor, or it cannot be a deterrent for you to decide your life, your big decisions in life. If you get good clothes, if you get warm clothing and everything, everybody gets used to it. Yes, initially first few years can be very, very difficult. Some people can also get into depression, but a person has to persevere and has to be strong. It's all up here in our heads. Everybody manages. Life goes on, life moves on. It is cold, I'm not going to deny that, but you get used to that.
Moving to the next one, which is about the jobs and any language barrier that students have to face. So as I mentioned before, getting job can be a little tricky, but UK is an experience-based market. The more experience any students have, better are their chances to land job and also maybe visa sponsorship job. And in the UK, English is the only language which is spoken, so they don't have to learn a new language. And Canada?
It's pretty much the same. English and English and French are the official languages for Canada, and people manage just fine. I've never had that experience where people have struggled because of a language ability. Like, I consider that Indians still can speak decent English, but there are people from South American countries who struggle with languages, but they still are able to succeed. So I don't think language is one reason why somebody would not get a job. Plus, we also see that Canada is a very diverse market. You get people from all ethnicities. So you can find an employer who speaks your local language and you'll be able to do just fine.
So one other parameter which I have on my list is about, can you sponsor your parents, either after coming as a student or after getting a PR? So for the UK, irrespective of whether you are a student or getting a PR, you cannot sponsor your parents. You can only sponsor your partner and your child who are considered as your dependent. What about Canada?
So as a temporary residents, and when I say temporary residents, it's students, workers, or visitors, they cannot sponsor. Okay, so there's a difference between the terminology here. They cannot sponsor their parents, but they can invite their parents to come visit them as visitors. But people on permanent residence can ultimately sponsor their parents if they have filed three back-to-back consecutive tax returns, and they have to meet a certain income criteria, which of course is a lot to discuss here, but they have to meet an income criteria. And because parent sponsorship is a lottery system, they can also, permanent residents and Canadian citizens can also sponsor their parents to come to Canada on a super visa, which allows them to stay in Canada at a stretch for 5 years with them.
Anyone who's willing to take your parents to you get your PR or after filing taxes, maybe Canada is for you and not UK. Because in the UK, it's very difficult to bring your parents even after getting your PR. Now, moving to the next one. So I'll touch on a very high level about the taxes. So because students ask, because they want to know how much will they save after earning and whether that saving will be good enough. So in the UK, there are different tax brackets. Again, I have a dedicated video on UK taxes, so I'm not going to cover on that. But on an average, the UK tax, the students will fall between 20 to 40%. What about Canada?
It's pretty much the same. The minimum, I think, is 26%. But again, I'm not a pro at that. I just have an accountant who takes care of that. So I wouldn't, but yeah, the minimum is 26%, and there are brackets. So there's a range, and but you get credits as international students, you get international education credits, and then you can use those credits to get tax refund. So I think from my experience, I know that international students for the first couple of years are always getting a refund from the Canada Revenue Agency for those international credits that they get when they're studying in Canada.
For parents, the next question is basically they are worried about the safety of their child wherever they go, whichever country. So I'm going to check on the Global Safety Index. So I know I have Googled it. UK ranks 34 and Canada ranks 12. So I believe you think it's good enough for students to come to Canada because it's safe enough?
Yes, it is safe. I wouldn't say that it's of course there's crime, and there's crime everywhere. It is safe, but I think we also have to take our own precautions. I mean, don't get into unnecessary arguments or situations with people, and try to avoid circumstances where things can escalate and you can get into trouble. Because the main reason I say that is because if you ever get into trouble as international students or foreign workers, you get into trouble or you come in contact with the enforcement agencies, and your whatever conflict you've gotten into, if it's a serious criminality issue, you could be deported from Canada. So stay away. Something as small as drinking under influence. If you go to a party, you have a couple drinks and then you drive and you get caught, you can be deported from Canada. So stay away from getting into trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Even in the UK, we have such strict rules as well. Now, I'm going to talk about distance from their own country, like from India to UK and India to Canada. So I know for UK to India, if you take a direct flight, it is around 8 to 9 hours. How long is the flight from Canada to India?
So it's very far. I don't go to India for the same reason. But if you're taking a direct non-stop flight, and we have a few options now, it's going to be 14 hours. It's a non-stop flight. But again, not everybody has that option, because some provinces like Alberta or Saskatchewan, they don't have direct flights. So they have to get to an international airport, like a major airport such as Toronto or Vancouver, to take the international flight. So for them, the travel time could be anywhere between 20 to 26 hours, because you have to include the transit time at that international airport, like the big airport as well, right? So yeah, it's very far. So that's one thing that hurts me living here. We can go to India, just like get up and go.
So you see, I go twice in a year to India. I'm currently in India.
And I go once in 3 years. Tell me about that.
Oh my God. So I think students, you are making a note here. If you want to visit India and your family very often, UK is a country for you.
But that's also because I have my own, like I have claustrophobia. I hate traveling in the plane. So that's another reason. But then I know people who go every year as well.
Okay, good.
It's expensive to travel to India as well.
Exactly. But not from the UK, because your distance is less.
Okay, UK wins there.
Yeah, of course. So let's move on to the next one. So let's talk about on student visa, can students bring their family with the main applicant, which is the student? So I'm going to just touch upon it very quickly. For bachelor students, you cannot bring your family. And for master student, from January 2024, you cannot bring your dependent unless until you're doing a research-based course. And for PhD, you can bring your dependents, which can be your children and which can be your partner. What about Canada?
So Canada, you can bring your partner, whether you're a student or a worker. Of course, with the work permits, there's certain limitations with the type of job that you're doing. There's certain skill levels that you can bring your spouses and children like you can like invite them on work permit. But then there's certain occupations, tier 4 and 5, that you can't bring your partners yet, but that's going to change very soon. But everybody else, students, as long as they're in public colleges, not private colleges. If they're in public colleges, they can bring their spouses and their children. Spouses get open work permits, children get study visas.
Okay. So if you guys want to bring your dependent, Canada is for you and not UK from January 2024. Okay, I'm going to move to the next point, which is about driving, because I know students want to drive when they move to either Canada or UK so that they can reach out to more jobs, they can do more jobs, or they can reach out to their workplace. So in UK, you can drive with your Indian driving license for 1 year, and then you need to apply for the UK's driving license. And there's no change at all, because in India, you do your right side driving, and it's the same in the UK as well. What about Canada?
So it's a big change for us here in Canada. The driving is on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So it's left side driving. I mean, you can drive on the Indian license as an international driver, but it's not safe. I wouldn't recommend.
Now, moving to the next point. So one of the questions which students ask me, not everyone, but few of them ask, what is the status of children born in UK or Canada if the parents are on a student visa? So for UK, I'm going to say it doesn't really matter if you are on a work visa or a student visa or temporary visa, you will not get a British passport unless until you have already got a UK's PR, which is called ILR, which is a permanent residency. What about Canada?
Regardless of your status, your children born in Canada get the Canadian passport, even if you're in Canada on a visitor's visa.
This is amazing. So guys, if you heard it correctly, Canada is for you and not you.
But a big one doesn't mean that if your children are born in Canada and they're Canadian citizens, they can sponsor you. They cannot.
Okay. So let the children be in Canada and in India.
Because your child needs to be 18 years old to sponsor you. So you have to wait for your PR for 18 years.
They need to be patient. Let's quickly just touch upon the schooling for children. So in the UK, schooling is free up to your grade 12. You know, you can go to the government school. You don't have to pay anything from your pocket. And what in Canada?
Pretty much the same. Even if you're on a work permit, if like the principal applicant or the parents are on work permit or study visa, their children can go to public schools up to grade 12 with like no fee, free education, and and post-secondary education. So anything after high school is paid. And that's for domestic students as well, like for children of Canadian residents and permanent residents and citizens is the same. Just the difference in the fee, of course, because Canadians pay domestic fee and international students pay international student fee.
Yeah, almost same in the UK. So we touched upon lots of topic and parameters today. So the last one I'll just touch upon is the health benefits. So in the UK, any student who comes, they already pay health surcharge during their visa. So once you pay the health surcharge, you're free to use NHS. So basically your medical is free once you pay the health surcharge. What about Canada?
Canada is absolutely free. Health is free for work permit holders who have a job in Canada and permanent residents and Canadian citizens. Students don't get free healthcare. They have to purchase an insurance. But if there is a student who has a dependent spouse with them who's on a work permit, and that dependent spouse has a job, then the couple can get health benefits, because the spouse can get, the worker spouse can get health benefits, and the student spouse can be a dependent on the health benefits. But if it's just individual student, then they cannot get health benefits.
Guys, in the UK, it's simple. Irrespective of whether you're a student or you're on a work permit, NHS, everything is free. So come to UK. So we talked about almost 14 to 15 parameters, and I hope this video will be helpful to anyone who's confused UK versus Canada. If you think we haven't touched upon any of the important points, do let us know in the comment section. Thank you, Shafoli. Thank you for coming and recording this video again with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarika. Bye-bye.
So tell us in the comment section if you found this video useful and which country are you choosing? Is it Canada or is it UK? And tell me why. Good luck, and I'll see you guys soon with my next video. Till then, keep learning.